you're driving me, down the ramp on game day, or across the stage at graduation, every ticket you buy to a Bulldog game makes possible my scholarship and my chance later on to impact our local economy. 80% of Fresno State graduates stay here to do just that. So buy your tickets, because no matter what the score, our community wins every time.
Stand up like a soldier, baby. Yeah, I know you been like that. Gun it like a holster, baby. Show them say you're wicked like that. We live where the war is raging, chasing our crazy dreams, hoping that the bridge won't cave in. So now we'll let it all go free. Give me the thing, I made me rockin' at the dance. Give me the thing, I made me rockin' at the dance. My shit don't got steppin' at the dance. Give me the thing, I made me rock, 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 rock. Give me the thing, I made me rockin' at the dance. Give me the thing, I made me rockin' at the dance. My shit don't got steppin' at the dance. Give me the thing, I made me light it up.
Do what you wanna do. You can do what you wanna do. It's inside of you. Amen. Amen.
Can't stop, won't stop moving.
Don't speak the language.
Music,
Don't need explaining. I know that in the morning now.
it's gonna be alright. I keep proving
Do I have to tell you?
this music.
It's beautiful too.
All I really need to understand is
I'll be alright.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, about that bass.
you gonna do? Amen. Amen. Amen.
Bold lives here. Bold is a kindred spirit, one that touches Central California and the world. Bold invents, it inspires, it gives back, and it scores. Bold speaks volumes, and nothing will ever stop it. It's big, it's red, and it is lasting. You want to change the world? Then welcome to the place where Bold begins.
You're driving me down the ramp on game day or across the stage at graduation. Every ticket you buy to a Bulldog game makes possible my scholarship and my chance later on to impact our local economy. 80% of Fresno State graduates stay here to do just that. So buy your tickets, because no matter what the score, our community wins every time.
Bold lives here. Bold is a kindred spirit, one that touches Central California and the world. Bold invents, it inspires, it gives back, and it scores. Bold speaks volumes, and nothing will ever stop it. It's big, it's red, and it is lasting. You want to change the world? Then welcome to the place where Bold begins.
You're driving me down the ramp on game day or across the stage at graduation. Every ticket you buy to a Bulldog game makes possible my scholarship and my chance later on to impact our local economy. 80% of Fresno State graduates stay here to do just that. So buy your tickets, because no matter what the score, our community wins every time.
Bold lives here. Bold is a kindred spirit, one that touches Central California and the world. Bold invents, it inspires, it gives back, and it scores. Bold speaks volumes, and nothing will ever stop it. It's big, it's red, and it is lasting. You want to change the world? Then welcome to the place where Bold begins.
You're driving me down the ramp on game day or across the stage at graduation. Every ticket you buy to a Bulldog game makes possible my scholarship and my chance later on to impact our local economy. 80% of Fresno State graduates stay here to do just that. So buy your tickets, because no matter what the score, our community wins every time.
Bold lives here. Bold is a kindred spirit, one that touches Central California and the world. Bold invents, it inspires, it gives back, and it scores. Bold speaks volumes, and nothing will ever stop it. It's big, it's red, and it is lasting. You want to change the world? Then welcome to the place where Bold begins.
You're driving me down the ramp on game day or across the stage at graduation. Every ticket you buy to a Bulldog game makes possible my scholarship and my chance later on to impact our local economy. 80% of Fresno State graduates stay here to do just that. So buy your tickets, because no matter what the score, our community wins every time.
To officially launch the 2016 Fresno State football season. It kicks off 1 month from today, September 3rd, at the University of Nebraska, 5 o'clock on that Saturday night. The Bulldogs will have a chance to knock off a Big Ten power. But today is the day where players report the first practice of fall camp tomorrow. And Coach Tim DeRuyter is going to be here in a moment to talk about it. He was in Las Vegas last week with all the other coaches from the conference talking about what might happen in 2016. The Bulldogs picked in a preseason poll to finish 4th in the West Division, but outside of a clear-cut favorite in San Diego State, that West Division is really, really wide open. But today's the day that it finally gets rolling. The players are showing up. No more just voluntary workouts. The team will start practices tomorrow morning, and that's going to be a new theme with Fresno State football this fall. Morning practices, not just every once in a while, not just on two-a-days, but every day leading up to that opener against Nebraska on Saturday night, September 3rd. Coach DeRuyter's not quite here yet. He'll be here shortly, and we'll hear what is on his mind. If you saw the Fresno Bee this morning, Robert Kawada did a great job of breaking down position by position, and I think when you look at it that way and you remember all the different personnel, all the different returners and newcomers at some of these positions, you say, you know, even though Fresno State might not have a whole lot proven going into the year, there are possibilities. There's potential, and that's going to be fleshed out over the next month in this fall camp. The team will start practicing tomorrow morning. The first scrimmage of the fall will be on Saturday morning, August 13th. That is going to be open to the public, so put that on your calendar if you want to get a look at these quarterbacks, at some of the new talent from the Valley and beyond. You think of a guy like Juju Hughes out of Hanford, fresh off a state championship and trying to play his way into some true freshman playing time. I could go down the list. I mean, the list goes on and on with guys who are trying to make a name for themselves here in 2016. But tomorrow, the first practice, that first scrimmage, August 13th, and we've got our first coach, Tim DeRuyter, show at the Doghouse Grill on Wednesday, August 31st. So that's something to look forward to as well with that season opener at Nebraska, 5 o'clock on September 3rd. What about the first home game? Well, hopefully by now you know that'll be on September 10th against Sac State. There are some phenomenal ticket deals that you can take advantage of. If you call 278-DOGS or go to GoBulldogs.com, 3-game mini plans, 4-game mini plans, the full 6-game home schedule. And a guy who's ready to roll for 2016 just sat down at the microphone. Coach DeRuyter, pretty exciting day. What time did you wake up this morning?
I got about 5:30 this morning. And didn't even have to wait for the alarm to go off. Yeah, it's a really exciting day. We're fired up to get the 26 season started off. Really, happy and pleased with our 13 seniors. I thought we got great leadership this summer. Ever since they came back in January, they've had a chip on their shoulder and they're ready to get, forward and competing for a championship again. We were talking as a staff, particularly the guys that were here, 4 years ago. This season feels a lot like 4 years ago. We're coming off a disappointing 9-loss season like 4 years ago. Nobody gave us much of a chance. Young team, new coaches, new schemes, and our guys went out and believed in what we did, and we fought for a championship. And I think we're talented enough that we can do that. You got to get fortunate with injuries, and hopefully the health of our team stays intact. But I believe that we've got a very talented young group of guys that are all in and really willing to go out there and lay it on the line. And we have some guys that played a little bit too early a year ago, got some experience, and so even though we're maybe young year-wise, we've got some guys that have played. So we're excited about that.
Your goals are built around winning a conference championship first and foremost, but your first chance to show the Valley what this team's going to be like this year is exactly 1 month from today at Nebraska. So what needs to happen over the next month for you to feel like your team is primed for an upset a month from today?
Well, clearly what we've got to do is build some confidence in our group. We've got to establish who our quarterback, who our leader is going to be on offense. We've got to establish that two deep. And really you're looking at your starters and then one or two guys in key backup roles that can fit in and compete at that same level. You do that through the first couple of weeks of camp. You identify who those leaders are, and then you start, honing it down to getting ready for a game plan against a, great Nebraska team. And that'll be a heck of a test for us. They're anticipating having a great year this year. You got to go into one of those storied, locations in college football, going to Lincoln. They'll have 90,000 plus, another sellout screaming for them. And it'll be a great environment for our kids and a great chance to go compete against the best.
For anyone that's got questions, just raise your hand and we'll pass the mic around. What's going on next door, Coach? Do you need like 20 pizzas in there?
I don't know what's going on exactly right now, but we've got a lot of compliance academic scheduling things that are going on. The day that guys have to report to camp, there's a lot of checklist stuff that has to get taken care of. So I think they're a little bit confined that we normally have this entire room. So it's a little tight in there.
So was today the first team meeting? Did you address our first time?
We'll address our team this afternoon, or actually this evening. Some of the guys that weren't here all summer, we had meetings starting at 8 this morning. Now we've got some compliance paperwork that our entire team has to do that they're kind of going through right now, and they'll get issue, and doctors will come and examine our guys this afternoon, the new guys, and we'll go from there.
I mean, so what's the message going to be then today when you address them? Is it a hopeful, optimistic tone like you give us, or is it more, guys, we need to get to work?
Well, I won't get into the exact specifics of what we talk with our team, but our message to our guys is this year is going to be about fighting back. We got knocked down a peg last year. It's time to fight back. And when you're young and inexperienced and you have the adversity like we had last year, sometimes you don't handle it well. And as the head coach, I didn't do a particularly good job of handling. We're changing that. And I think our kids have come back with a chip on their shoulder. They're excited about the direction that we're moving. And I think that with the staff changes, particularly our new coaches have done a terrific job forging some relationships where the kids believe in what we're doing and can't wait to go to practice.
More questions?
Nobody?
Tim, why are you guys going all morning practice?
This fall you're talking about? We've gone in the mornings every spring since we've been here, and I like doing that. It gets our guys up in the morning. They say college students are most productive first thing in the morning. We wanted to get them here, get their day started right, get the blood going, have our practice, get our meetings in, and then have them take classes in the afternoon. More and more colleges are doing that. We did it, as I mentioned, we did it in the spring and we really liked it. The issue in the fall is your weekly calendar or schedule goes up a few hours because normally you've got that extra time on Monday to prepare for a Monday afternoon, 4 o'clock practice. We're switching some things up. We're now going to give our players Monday off. We'll bring them back on Sunday after games, review our game film. We'll get a lift, kind of take care of Saturday on Sunday and Sunday afternoon and evening. Monday will be their day off, and then we'll start on Tuesday, our normal Tuesday practice, Tuesday morning.
I think that probably no matter what your guys' record year to year during the offseason, kind of evaluate how you do things and see if there's places you want to change. Are there any other kind of changes to the routine or how you're doing practice like that?
Yeah. I mean, each year you tweak things a little bit. Obviously, I think people will notice our offense will be different, with the multiple personnel groupings being used more so, a little bit more of a commitment to the running game. Structurally, our special teams will change. We have a true special teams coordinator who will be in charge of all 4 phases now in Dave Unger. He's a guy that's done it at Alabama, in the Pac-12, at Cal, Washington State, Oregon State, most recently at Utah State. He's been a Frank Broyles award nominee, for a few years. I mean, he does a terrific job, and I think, people will notice that. Going in the morning, part of, the reasoning for doing it, not just because other people are doing it, I think it makes sense. I wanted our guys to have that sense that things are changing, that, last year wasn't acceptable and we're moving forward and we're going to, put the best product out there. And, you can't get comfortable, we're going to change things on you.
Do you change anything in your individual role, kind of, I don't know, where you're managing?
Well, yeah, I look at myself and how I do things. I think the last couple of years I've been a little bit more hands-off, particularly on defense, and I'm going to be a little bit more involved there. We're not going to change schematically a lot of what we do. We're going to fine-tune some things, probably simplify some things. I think, our spring was really good because our players played very fast because there wasn't a lot of thinking. And if we can do that and pin our ears back and play and get back to where we can, pressure quarterbacks with some blitzes, we can get back to that 30-plus takeaway goal that we want to have every year.
competition are guys who haven't had actual practices here that you can be at. So is that going to be a little strange going into fall camp where 3 of the 4 guys you're really seeing for the first time? And could that maybe even be an advantage that you have a fresh perspective on all of it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, definitely. All 3 of those guys we think are very, very talented. I love the mental makeup of them. They all think they should be the starting quarterback, which is what you want to have, is a guy that has confidence, has that leadership ability. But they've got to go out and prove it. You know, the fact that we haven't sat down and be able to evaluate them, that's one of the big unknowns. But Coach Keesaw's got a relationship with Zach. You know, he'd recruit him to Cal. He's a guy who's played in the Pac-12, so he's got some experience that way. Christian Rossi had a heck of a year last year at Fresno City. He's a guy that is a tremendous athlete, has a swagger about him. And then, you know, Quentin Davis, you know, had a terrific year at Bosco last year, running a very, very similar system to what we do. Really has a terrific understanding of what we're trying to do from a schematic standpoint, and he's got a lot of confidence about himself. So I'm just excited to see those guys go out there and compete. You know, for about 2 weeks, we'll, you know, try to split reps fairly evenly. You know, Chasen will get the lion's share of them because of what he's shown so far, but we're going to see if one of those guys can't challenge him.
Tim, predicted to finish 4th in the division by fellow coaches. How is that sitting with you?
Well, I don't think that was fellow coaches. I think that was media. I don't worry about what the media thinks. You know, I don't know how many times that they're writing those things. I think, you know, it's one of those situations where our kids weren't very happy about it. And, you know, you take it for what it is. You know, I think the Mountain West this year, probably more so than any of the other campaigns that I've been in, is more balanced. I don't know. I think San Diego State's got a terrific team coming back. You know, they did a nice job last year. But there's probably 7 other teams that I wouldn't be shocked that could win this league if they have a good year.
And what do you see from Chasen Spring? How confident are you with his abilities to win the job?
Well, I think physically, you know, he's progressed. Coming off the injury, it took him a little bit longer to put some weight on. I think he's gotten much more comfortable in the offense. And unfortunately, we couldn't be out there. I mean, it's the rules, but you talk to our players. He really took charge this summer in the player run practices. Very different than a year ago where, you know, he's a freshman just showing up kind of waiting for someone else to direct things. He's taken charge. And I think that maturization process is important for him to establish himself as a leader. He knows that there's going to be a challenge, and we want to have competition, so he feels that so he can keep pushing.
You've had other players that are more established, like Derek Carr, Robert Russell. They sit out in a lot of those full contact scrimmages. Considering the depth behind Chasen and the fact that, you know, they have been in the program long, do you potentially sit him out on some of those? Or is
No, we don't hit our quarterbacks in scrimmages anyway. So, no, he'll play. He needs to get the reps.
How big is this for the next couple of weeks for Chasen to show you what he had?
Well, it's like any position. You know, you got to go compete and prove to not only your coaches but your teammates that you're the guy. And I think he's poised to do that. We're going to obviously provide him the opportunity to do that, and then he's got to go out and earn it.
Seems like there's a likelihood we could see a true freshman running back or more than one getting some carries this year. What are you looking for early on in camp from those guys?
Well, again, you know, those are the guys in particular that the scrimmages will be key. When you practice and it's thud tempo, you have 29 practice opportunities, so you don't want to, you know, necessarily beat guys up, you know, tackling every single day, and you can't do that. But when we get to those live scrimmage situations, I want to see who can make guys miss, who can pick up a blitzing linebacker, you know, who can catch the ball out of the backfield and make things happen. We really like the summers that all 3 of those young guys have had, and they're going to get their opportunity.
Coach, can you go ahead about Zach? I know you touched about all the quarterbacks, but what do you like about him and what are you most excited about with him?
Well, again, I haven't been able to seen him in person throw and do things, so it's hard. But I have sat down with him. I like the confidence that he exudes. You talk to our players that have been out at the player run practices with them. they tell me he's got a cannon. And when he's throwing that ball, it looks a little different than the other ones, and it kind of got the other quarterback's attention. So that competition gets raised, and again, he's a guy who's played in games at the college level. There's no substitute for experience. I don't think he'll be phased going into a Lincoln if he earns the job. But I think he's just looking forward to the fact that we've got competition. He's got a chance. Well, I like the strides our offensive line made in the spring. I think David Patterson really improved. I think it was critical getting Christian Cronk in the fold. I think he's going to develop to be a heck of a player for us. I think our three inside guys, Jake Vasquez did a good job in the spring and has continued to develop. And then Aaron Mitchell is probably going to be the bell cow of that group. He's played the most, and he's got a lot of athletic ability. And Micah St. Andrew had a nice spring. So I like our five. To me, the key is finding those next 2 to 3 guys. Who's our next tackle? Who's our next guard in the game? Who's our next center in the game? That's what's going to be critical for Coach Weber, to find those guys and get those guys to the level where they're just a notch below. There's not a chasm from 1 to 2. And, we're going to have some young guys in those positions. We'll have a lot of redshirt, freshmen going to have their first opportunity. But we've got some, I think, really good size and ability, but it's time for them to grow up and show it to us.
Coach, what's your message to the Red Wave? We're a month out, and the home opener is a week after the Nebraska game. What's your message to the second level and why you show up on us?
Well, I'm hoping the Red Wave is just like our players, our staff. It's the 2016 season. We're undefeated. Like I said before, it feels to me like 4 years ago. We've got a very talented young team that's excited to play in Bulldog Stadium. Our team, since we've been here, is 19-6 in that stadium. We love it when it's filled up. I love our new marketing campaign. Just the ticket to build the community. I mean, I think it's perfect. It's who we are. It's what we use in recruiting. Is that we've got the college football atmosphere in the Mountain West. There's no community like Fresno in the Valley on game day. And, to have our administration back us the way they do, having academics and athletics rise together, this Just the Ticket campaign to build our community, I think it's perfect. And so I'm hoping that our fans are excited. Our first scrimmage will be open to the public. If you're a quarterback club member, all of our first couple weeks of practice are going to be open to the public. We'd love to have people out there and see the new product. I think people are going to be really impressed.
Talk about how your new coaches have developed relationships and how you appreciate that about your new coaches. Talk about on the field, what we're going to see that's different on the field from years past for new coaches offensively.
Well, I think probably the most drastic thing you're going to see offensively changes, because a lot of scheme-wise, we're going to still base out of a 3-4 defensively and try to pressure and do those things. But offensively, as going back to last December when I was interviewing different candidates, Eric Keesaw and his approach to football, X and O's are X and O's. There's a lot of good guys, scheme guys out there, and certainly we had great interest in all the guys that came down to the final interviews were really terrific guys with X and O's. But to me, one of the things that set Eric apart was how he developed relationships with players, how important that was to him, the steps he took to get everybody involved, from coaches to players. As we put the rest of the staff together, he wanted to bring in some guys that he had some relationships with, and I thought that was a critical component. I think just like when there's disharmony at home, the kids know when mom and dad are fighting. It can be the same way if the staff's not gelling together. And I think immediately when our players came here, they sensed that, hey, this group's got it together. They're guys that care about each other. They care about the players. And when you can start from that sense, it's easy for players to get all in. And I think they've done a terrific job doing that. On the defensive side, I think, Coach Ward has slipped in seamlessly. He puts his, special touches on things. and has tweaked some things that we did, which is always great to have a little bit of outside information and a different view of, hey, how can we do this better? And again, I think that his relationships with our players have been terrific. He's done a great job of mentoring his student athletes in the past, and he's brought that attitude here. And I think if you talk to our players, they will tell you he's genuinely concerned about them, not just on the field and doing things right, but doing things right everywhere. And being a mentor and father figure for those guys, I think, has really helped his relationships with them.
The difference you hope he'll make on special teams, but you've got to replace maybe your team MVP and Garrett Swanson from last year, your long snapper and Detweiler. And how about place kicking? Because I know last year was better than the year before in place kicking, but I don't think it was what you hoped it would be. How does that battle shape up, and what are you looking for there?
Well, I mean, that's a good observation. One of our, we talked about this morning in our staff meeting, one of our primary goals coming out of fall camp is to establish who's going to be our punter. Blake Cusick's going to have a chance. We think he's got a big-time leg, but he hadn't done it yet. And so we're going to put him under the gun some and have him have a chance to compete and earn that job. And that's what you got to have is even though the guy hadn't been there, put him in some stressful situations where he can hopefully have success and build on that so that on game day it becomes natural for him. Our deep snapper, not having Dylan here for the last couple of years, has been one of those things you sleep well at night not worrying about it. I know Justin Varell is going to work his tail off. We're going to bring some guys in to compete with him and find out those guys. I don't want to say least, but of those three worries, I think kicker-wise, Jimmy Camacho's strength is coming back to where we knew it was. He had some health issues, a year ago that he's, fortunately been able to overcome it. Cody's been a guy who's been really dependable for us, from 40 yards in, and started to, get some more strength in his legs. So having those guys compete, both of them have kicked in games. I think it's going to be a good competition to find out, this fall who's going to be those guys. But when you look at the teams in general, not necessarily the specialists, but your return game, I think Damari did a terrific job for us a year ago. I anticipate him to be one of the best return guys, particularly in kickoff. In our conference. We're going to have to find out who's going to be our punt returner, but I think we've got some guys that can make guys miss and make some things happen.
Coach, the first 2 years there was no doubt who the starting quarterback was going to be. The last 2 years there's been some doubt, and you kind of left that question open almost till kickoff of the season over. Do you anticipate a different strategy this year, or is it going to be solely based on what happened in practice, or some
Well, I don't like to predetermine this is going to be our quarterback. I think what you've got to do is go through the process, put them in competitive situations like scrimmages, and have a particular quarterback earn the confidence of his teammates and coaches that he's the guy. And unfortunately, we didn't get there where one guy was clearly the guy. I mean, I'd love for that to happen. I mean, clearly that was the case, the first 2 years with Derek. I anticipate that Chasen's going to have the greatest chance to do that, but he's got to prove it in those first couple weeks. I would like nothing better to say after our second scrimmage, Chasen's our starting quarterback, and here's number 2, and here's number 3, and here we go. But it's got to happen organically. It can't be predetermined, because as soon as you do that, then somebody starts rising up and, I shot myself in the foot because we didn't give this guy enough reps, particularly guys that, just got here on campus. You want to see as many reps as you can with those new guys.
Do you think there is a benefit, though, to, like, I don't know, say a week before the opener, coming out and saying, this is our guy, we're behind this guy, and making kind of public, the players all hear that?
Well, I don't know that it matters publicly, to be frank. I think our players know, because they go to practice and they see who gets all the reps. Whether you let your opponent know, I don't know that, it's critical to let those guys know, but I think it's important and like I said, our players would know in that game week, they'll know who our starting quarterback is.
Well, have you held off the last couple of years in part because you don't want the other team to know who's starting?
Well, I think that's part of it. It's particularly if they have game tape on somebody, you can develop game plan information, and let's say you got a quarterback who's maybe not mobile. Maybe you're going to see more pressure now. I don't know that there's an advantage in letting your opponent know who your starting quarterback is if you don't have to.
Any final
All right, we appreciate you coming, and we'll see y'all out there.
That'll be tomorrow morning, first practice here at Fresno State, fall session. Building up to that season opener September 3rd at Nebraska. First home game September 10th, 7 o'clock start against Sac State. And those season ticket packages, many plans, they're all still available, 278 Dogs or GoBulldogs.com.